Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. Here we go. We are recording from the exhibitor hall here in Tel Aviv at World Congress 12. Again, Tel Aviv, Israel, two outstanding guests with us this morning to chat on the BOC and what that means, what that is, what your roles are in it, and how that affects the international stage here as the profession of athletic therapy, athletic training continues to grow, evolve, and reach globally. So we have Rene Revis-Shingles. She is currently the president of board of directors for the BOC and located in her day job at CMU in Central Michigan University, and Rusty McKune, who is the chair of BOC's international committee and day job, Nebraska Medicine. So Rene, over to you, just who you are, what you're doing here, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty of it.
Well, James, thank you so much for inviting me to be here today and to talk with your listeners. It is such an incredible time to be here in Israel and having conversations at the World Congress. To be invited on the world stage as a part of the board of certification is immensely gratifying to be here, to have conversations with individuals about what athletic training and athletic therapy looks like globally. And to have that one-on-one conversation that you might not otherwise have. It's a little different over Zoom when you do it, but when you're shaking hands and have the chance to, today I spoke with some students from Ono College, and oh my goodness, they are so passionate about what they're doing in sports therapy and what they want the future to be. So you don't have that opportunity when you don't show up, so to speak, at a place such as this. And thank you to WFAP for the invitation to be here.
Yeah, beautiful capture. And yesterday I had the opportunity to sit down with Kathy and Brian and Hyungju and Kirsten, international presidents, and same thing, that in-person piece is massive to be able to put hand to hand and make those contacts. Rusty McKune, over to you. Your role here and where you're located in the world.
Yeah. So, and again, I'd like to echo what Rene said. Thank you for the opportunity to join you in this conversation. And again, thanks to the World Federation for the opportunity to come and join them on this stage. This is the third opportunity that I've had to come to a World Congress. And, it's exciting to see where we're coming from a global perspective. The BOC is relatively new with our international committee. We're 3 years old, but the BOC has been part of the international stage with the mutual recognition agreement for many years now. And so to see where it started and to have been able to be a part of the mutual recognition agreement, but then just like everything else within the profession, to see it evolve now into the international arrangement, and to get to see the passion with which other individuals and other organizations around the globe are trying to pursue the profession of athletic training and therapy is incredible. I get more excited every time I talk to individuals because you see the path that they have ahead of them, and they can build that path upon the experience of others who have walked it before. But the fun thing is that they can create their own unique path, and I think that's one of the things that we try to emphasize in our discussions as we talk with these different organizations, is that we do things the way we do it in the States. CATA does it the way they do it in Canada, BASRAT, ARTI. And the good thing is that like talking with Ella from Israel, they've got the opportunity now where they're developing a foundation, but they literally have the world behind them because the world wants to see them succeed and develop the profession within Israel. We want to see the profession develop in other countries, and we want to be a resource to help them do that in any way that we can, just like any of the other presidents from the other organizations, or from our strategic alliance partners. We want to see everybody succeed because as one succeeds, we all succeed, and it helps enhance the globalization of the profession.
Yeah, amazing, and sort of repetitive themes, and I don't mean that in the negative sense of sort of collaboration, collective approach, and you use that big O word of opportunity. The BOC sets the standard. You're the largest body in terms of number of credentialed or certified practitioners at 57,000 thereabouts, and the next closest is thousands and thousands behind that. So you mentioned learning from lessons already learned. Rene, what have you found in conversations so far here? Sort of the touch off of what Rusty just talked to is Israel having a opportunity to so having that opportunity to connect with the Israeli constituency.
Yeah, well, I think some of the conversations would be understanding who you need to talk to and what do those individuals need to hear? How do you have those conversations? How do you demonstrate and show what the credential might look like or what athletic therapy might look like in this country?
Right.
And so it's been nice to do that, to understand where and who and the how and the why. Of those things, and how can the BOC assist where we may have done a similar type of thing, or this is the way that conversation might have taken place. And so how do we provide that information with what they need? The fact that there's already a degree in the sports therapy here at Ono College, that gives you a great place. You're not trying to start your educational programming from scratch. That program is already there. So there's your foundation as you begin to think about where educationally what that looks like. So now it's what are the other steps that move you toward the appropriate credential for Israel.
Right.
And have those conversations. So it's been nice to be able to talk with those who are involved with the association here, as well as, like I said, I spoke to about 8 students post my presentation.
Right, we saw you surrounded.
They were all really engage and want to know what can we do about our profession to help our profession move forward. And I suggested to them, I said, you're in this for the long haul. Keep in mind, there may be a setback here and there that happens. Someone may close the door, that may happen, but you go through the window, or you come up through the ground, through the floor, what that looks like. And the students kind of laughed and said, that's a part of our culture. We know how to do those kinds of things. We know how to come from different directions. I said, absolutely. You have to utilize that. And I said, and then how do you reach back? The students who are coming behind you and help them to understand the importance of what you're doing as it relates to athletic therapy and sports therapy here in Israel. And because the students talked about, do we work on our own or who do we work with? I said, no, you work collectively, so that the left and the right hand know what's going on. That if students have a voice to do X, Y, and Z, are you working with the leadership here and what they need to do, because they're going to have different insights as to what you need to do. And so they really took that to heart. And I suggested that they talk with Ella, who is just like, yeah, she's our professor. It's like, yes. So they were really excited about that. So I think the future is very bright here. You've got a dedicated group of individuals who have been laying the foundation prior to, the students who are here, and the size of the program. They have, they're 100 students, in their programs. Oh my goodness.
Not a small program.
No, not at all. Not at all. In some of our programs in the United States, we wish we had 100 students, at one point in time in some of our programs. And so I think that the future is absolutely bright, and the opportunity to lay that foundation for what needs to be done to move them towards the credential that would be appropriate for them.
Amazing stuff. And again, we're live in the exhibitor hall, so a little interruption, but completely authentic here. I mean, we're having a conversation, many conversations going on here. You talked a little bit to the importance of that in-person piece, and the energy is it's palpable with the students and having the students in the space and the energy of the Israeli delegates here, right? Learning and seeing and growing almost in front of our eyes as we sit here, right? And have conversations. And Sue Felson was a keynote speaker yesterday, and she talked about standing on the shoulders of giants. And here we are. We have ISRAT now in place, and the giant being the NATA and the BOC and setting those standards. There's an important piece of coming over here and connecting the dots, showcasing what's worked and what hasn't worked. And I love the idea of sort of that reaching back for the student who's behind you, Rene, as we talk to that. Rusty, maybe starting with you. I mean, you're in a position now on the BOC. When you started out as that student in the room, was that ever on your radar to sort of end up as a part of the BOC, and what did that journey look like to get to that point?
No, I mean, I think that when you have opportunities that fall before you, I think that, I've always been the type that I don't necessarily lay out the best plan. I just try to capitalize on what comes before me and tend to jump in that direction. When I was graduating from college, well, what are you going to do? I never said I want to be X, Y, or Z. I always just said I want to have a job that challenges me. And if it ever becomes a job to get up and go to work, then it's probably time for me to change. And this has been a profession where it has never been a job to get up and go to work. The opportunities that I've had started early. I graduated and was able to work into some leadership positions at the state level. And that really, I envisioned myself working more up in the leadership, probably more through the NATA. But at one point in time, I had a conversation with Denise Vandell, who's the former executive director of the BOC and a Hall of Fame member of the NATA, and really a pioneer in many ways, and really a true giant of the profession in the States. Had a conversation with her, and the opportunity to be a BOC director was there, and I didn't think there's any way that I would ever win an election to become a BOC director, but it did. And then from there on the board, I had the opportunity to become board president, just like Rene. And so, but it was, if I had planned that, it couldn't have happened. And so I think that's one of the things that I would stress to those to reach, as I reach back, is, have your eyes wide open. You want to set a course, you want to set a path, you want to have some direction, but you also want to have your head on a swivel and be willing and be ready to capitalize on those opportunities that present themselves so that you don't miss them. You need to be selective, you need to be strategic in some of the opportunities so that you don't end up overwhelming yourself. But you definitely want to make sure that you don't turn down opportunities without giving them a chance. Because, again, if you would have told me that I was sitting, in 2017, sitting in Madrid, Spain, or in 2019 in Tokyo, or now in Israel, I never would have thought that would have been an opportunity. But it's because of this profession, and it's because of the people that I work with, and it's because of the great individuals and the work that they've done that, like we said, came before me. That I have the opportunity to do this. And, I would just really encourage people to do those types of things, to capitalize, but to realize too, that it takes work. It's not, none of this was ever handed. I always say there's no way that I'm the smartest person in the room, but I usually will outwork people. It goes back to the old athletic mantra, we may not be the best, but we're going to outwork. And that typically has been, if it takes getting up early in the morning, I get up early in the morning to do it. I take care of things, make mistakes, absolutely, but be accountable for those mistakes and learn from them, and just be willing to put in the effort. And when that effort pays off, it usually pays off tenfold.
Amazing. Opportunity begets opportunity, but it also definitely takes the hard work. Rene, nodding in agreement definitely with some of what Rusty was saying. A little bit towards your story. You're at Central Michigan University now. You're the BOC board of directors, the president here. How did this journey look for you through, I don't know, your journey, your path to get to where you are?
Similar. In the fact that I met Denise Vandell, but I also had a chance meeting with Paul Grace, and maybe it wasn't so chance. I was involved with the National Athletic Trainers Association, NATA, most of my work started there in terms of volunteering. And I was involved in doing Ethnic Diversity Council work, the EDAC, or the Ethnic Diversity Advisory Council work. And one of the questions I asked after a presentation that Paul gave was, how are our ethnic minority students doing on the certification exam? Because that was a concern at the time for athletic training in the United States. And we had a conversation about that. And then he said, how would you like to be involved with what we're doing at the BOC? I said, sure, and throughout my career, people have offered me an opportunity or said, how would you like to fill in the blank, get involved with? And I invariably said, yes. Did I even know what I was getting myself into? Absolutely not. Did I know where it was going to lead? Absolutely not. But I thought it was important to give back. My mentors, really honed in for me the importance of giving back to the profession. And so it was a way to give back. And in this case, initially, it was education through the certification examination. And most of my career, I've been both, I was working, or much of my career, I've worked as an athletic trainer as well as doing academics, although I'm more on the academic side and less on clinical practice. And so I said the opportunity to work on the practice analysis, the role delineation study practice analysis, sure, I'm not turning that down.
Right.
Who knows where it's going to lead or what it's going to look like. But so I did. And so it really was my real first introduction to a lot of work associated with the BOC. I was also an exam writer for the examination, and then I was a tester when we were doing the practical exams. I was also a exam administrator for that. And
Yeah.
so those were my introductions into BOC work. Did I even remotely think that I would be on the board of directors for the BOC? Absolutely not. Again, it was nowhere in my vision.
Yeah.
At one point in time, my mentor says, Rene, you just need to be like the president of the NATA. Yeah, right. So I thought about that, and I had a conversation with then President Marge Albaum. I said, what does that look like? What does it really look like? What's the pathway to get there? And she and I had some very interesting conversations. But I often believe, I'm a person of faith, and I believe that the things that happened in my life and in my career have been by divine design, not by happenstance. And I didn't go down that path. Something happened, I went left and didn't go down that path. And one of my mentors said, and I remember reading a description about the board of directors for the BOC, and they were looking for international experience. I was like, that's a stretch for me. I've done some international work, but not in that way. So I actually had started writing, my information about, my application process. And then I decided, not the right time. And so several years later, the call came out again, and I read the description of what was being sought in terms of the skill set. And I went, I can do that. I think I can do that. My skill set at least says that I can. So I'm at least going to throw my hat in the ring. I don't know what's going to happen. If it happens, again, I'm a person of faith. If it's meant to be, it's going to happen. If it's not, then it won't. And if it does, then I'm going to be asking for whatever it is that I need to be able to do what's going to be asked of me. That I won't be put in a position that I won't be able to have the support, good, bad, or ugly, in whatever happens. And so I did. I threw my hat in the ring, and I put together my video, and we got great people at Central Michigan University because they made me look really good, because I definitely wouldn't have done that by myself. And next thing you know, yes, I'm on the board of directors. And then I remember some conversations, my mentor again saying, you need to be president at some point in time. I'm like, can I get on the board and at least get my feet wet before you tell me that I should be president of this organization? Are you kidding me? But people saw something in me that I did not automatically see in myself. And then I had some conversations with some people. I was like, yeah, I think you should throw your hat in the ring for that. Really? Should throw my hat in the ring for that. Well, how do I go about doing that? So again, and watching and learning. I came on the board when Rusty was president. He says he's not the smartest man in the room. Okay, then I want to see who the other people are. Because I learned so much, and I don't know if I've ever said this to Rusty, but I learned so much just in watching what he did and how he did it, and mirroring that, and then the conversations that we had along the way. And also knowing that if I had questions, or if I got stuck, or if I made a mistake, I could pick up the phone and call and say, Rusty, by the way, here's some situations, how can, and he would be willing to help. And so that moved me along that path. Did I know I was going to be here? Absolutely not. Again, had no idea. But feeling very blessed in the role that I'm in. And Did I see myself sitting again in Israel at some point in time representing the board of certification with regard to global issues? No. And did I think I would have that opportunity? No. But now that I'm here, as Rusty mentioned, you do the work, you roll the sleeves and get the job done. That's what it takes. If you need to grind, then you grind. You do what you need to do to get the job done and to look at what are the issues and concerns and how do we as the BOC help others who want to do something similar, with the skill set that we have for credentialing. How do we help? Exam development is what we do at the BOC.
Right.
And I think we do it well. But that's been honed from the Denise Vandels and now under the leadership of Ann Minton over time and building on Paul Grace, who was before Denise. And so, as Rusty mentioned, we've gone through some of those pitfalls and what has worked and what hasn't, and watching that growth over time in our certification process and recertification or maintenance certification. So it's been great to see where that's going, and it's been great to see what's happening around the world and around the globe with regard to athlete training and therapy.
I really appreciate the personal stories and sharing that. I think it matters, it matters to students, it matters to all of us in the profession that some of these themes keep coming up. It's like asking the questions that matter, because if we don't ask the questions that matter or learn from our mistakes, we're never going to know the answers. And so really big piece there. And the obvious passion that you both have expressed throughout your career, and then in getting to where you are, and then in doing what you're doing now. And I often reflect with students and with other practitioners in the space of, we're here to guide, and you're here to carve your own path. And I think this is very palpable here with Israel. Maybe I'll just leave it as final thoughts. I don't want to take up too much of your time, though. There's lots going on here. Again, we're live in the exhibitor hall here in Tel Aviv at World Congress number 12. Maybe just some closing thoughts on opportunities that you may see here in Israel that you may not have seen in your journey in the US or in the BOC. And from that, I mean, are there areas culturally, or are there areas here that we may not be exposed to in North America where ATCs or training or therapy can go? And I look here, I know in the US, or maybe things that are parallel. Right, the military has a large presence here. Currently, no ATCs or ATs in there. We had a conversation the other day about there are companies and there are things that are already in place that may be able to be replicated here in Israel. So we'll flip the question that way, and just opportunities that have been shared maybe that throughout the course of this World Congress that you think hold a lot of value for an up and coming association. Rusty, maybe over you to start.
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious thing that I see here is the passion that they have, the desire that they have. And then, like I said, the support that they have. They've got the world behind them. I think that as they grow and as they establish their goals, they can reach out to any number of groups, any number of organizations, any number of individuals to help them identify some of those things that worked, some of those things that didn't work. But the important thing is that they can develop their own path. But as I was talking with Ellen about, the work that they're doing today is the foundation that the future is going to build upon. Right. And what I see here is they've got a strong foundation. They've got a lot of energy. They've got like I said, they've got the passion. And so I see all the pieces. It's just, how are they going to put their pieces together? How are they going to make it their own? Right. I was talking with Ella earlier today. CATA does it one way. BASRAT does it their way. ARTI does it how they do it. The states, we do it the way we do it. Israel doesn't have to do it any one way that the other group does, but what they can do is they can reach out and they can communicate, they can talk, and they can find the pieces that work for them. And I think that's the exciting thing, is that as we grow this global vision for the profession, there's going to be more opportunities for more ways of putting this puzzle together. And there will be one of the things that some of the commonalities, the other commonalities that I see is that there's always going to be obstacles. Yep. There's always going to be hurdles that have to be overcome. But if you can reach out to a group and say, how did you navigate this? You know, whether it's another profession, whether it's some, government or regulatory issues, how did you do that? And then, well, we did it this way and someone else did it that way. Well, okay, now we being Israel can say, oh, okay, here's what worked for them and how does this fit in our equation and where do we plug this in? And all of a sudden now they've got a pathway and a solution. And again, it comes up to seizing on opportunities and finding those groups that they can collaborate with that they may not have thought would be there. Again, the military, finding ways to work with them, definitely, as we talk about the tactical athlete, as we talk about some of those other groups that are the non-traditional athletes that we would perceive, but they still do things that are extremely athletic. The pathologies are the same, the struggles are the same. So how can they work with those groups to help position themselves within other governmental organizations? So it's just going to be a matter of them developing a path, but creating their own destiny. But they're doing it again with the world behind them.
Yeah, I would echo what Rusty said, and I think they started in a sense of that educational piece is there. And sometimes I think that is some of the hardest things to try to get through an institution, is how do we make this into bigger than just a workshop that you're going to. It is a degree. And so that starts them with that educational foundation that they need to move forward. So I think that is huge. Now it's the strategizing on how to make this work in Israel, and how do we look at the various components as Rusty alluded to, actually spoke to, in terms of here is again, the student group that can help do this. Here's the organization. How do we get the students into the organization, recognizing what that needs to look like, because that's your future. I had questions today was, do we go through our health ministry or the sports ministry? And I said, both, or whichever provides your particular path for right now, what makes sense for you.
Start the conversation.
Right. And if it's the sport ministry, well, if that limits you to treating just quote unquote, just athletes, well, maybe 10 years from now, that expands into other spaces, or 5 years from now, so it's whatever gets you to that point that puts you do what it is that you want to do. But I think it's some of that being strategic and really having those conversations that outline what do we want the future of this to look like if we look 5 years from now, 10 years from now, how does this look for Israel? And then strategically thinking about what are the processes that may get us there? What are the hurdles that get us there? I mean, what are the hurdles that are blocking us from getting there that we have to overcome or go around or go through to get through to the next piece? Recognizing that they're transferable skills, that this skill set works, for this population or a different population, and where those skill sets are similar and what sets them apart from other professions. That says this is why we do what we do and why it's important that we have this particular set of skills working with these particular patients or populations in the state. So I think those are things to think about. And again, if I have seen nothing else since I have been here on this particular trip, is that truly the world is your stage. How do we help you? And that's the beauty of what the World Congress does, and brings together professionals from around the globe who can be supportive in that country.
Yeah, transferable skills that know no barriers, no boundaries, no borders, right? These are skills that we have in this profession that we can take anywhere and we can apply anywhere. I think just brilliance. And there's a large student population that takes to this podcast. And I think there's a big analogy here that just played out in my head as I'm listening to you, experts in the field, top-notch information, being the expert of your own space, right? And then knowing that you have support behind you. So for young students, young professionals, or a brand new organization on the world stage of athletic training and therapy, know you have the support, dive in and own your space. And I think opportunities will present themselves and you run with those. So Rusty McKune, a pleasure. I'll let you say whatever you need to say to close it out. And then Rene Revis-Shingles, over to you as well, just to whatever you need to do to wrap this thing up. But I really appreciate your time. I'm humbled to be able to sit down with you briefly. Look forward to chatting into the future as well, and sharing this with the world.
Yeah, no, and again, thank you very much for the opportunity. I think the one thing that I would say, and as it relates to students and really as it relates to a young profession, is that I always tell students, never lose sight of who you are as you're trying to become who or what you want to be. You have to remain true to yourself. You have to remain true to your values. You have to remain true to your core. And I think that that's applicable for the students, young professionals on their professional journeys, on their personal journeys, on their leadership journeys. But it's also applicable to professions, within the athletic training and therapy profession. We can't lose sight of who we are and really what we do. And if we stay true to that, the rest is going to write itself.
Thank you. Thank you again, James, for hosting us today. It's absolutely our pleasure to sit down and talk with you. And I would agree, I go back to the world is your oyster. What can we do to help one another to move our profession forward around the globe? And to take advantage of those opportunities that present themselves and be ready to roll up your sleeves and get the work done. Because it is going to take work, and recognize that even though you might hit those hurdles, and this again for the young professionals, it could be, while you're in school or as one grows into one's professional self. Again, do you go over, do you go around, or maybe that hurdle wasn't even for you. And you just leave that one alone and go in a different direction. And so I think you can take that forward but you gotta get the work done, and it's not gonna happen for you. The opportunity is there, but it's what you do with that opportunity that makes the difference. And know that the difference is indeed being made. And you may not always get there. You may not always see the difference that was made. Those individuals who laid the foundation for credentialing in the United States or the DOC. Some of them lived long enough to see it. Some of them didn't. They laid the foundation, but knew that what was going to be on the horizon was going to be there. They didn't get there to that mountain, but they knew they were planting seeds for people to be able to get to that mountain. And so I think that's important too, that sometimes you have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, that you might not always see the fruits of the labor that you're doing, and to not get stuck and to not be discouraged by that, but know that it's going to happen as it goes forward.
Amazing captures both, and for all your time and for all that you're doing for the profession, and here again, live recording in Tel Aviv in the exhibitor hall, and opportunities lie in front of us for the rest of the afternoon as well. Maybe an opportunity to get a snack or something like that here coming up. But really appreciate your time. Truly, I'm humbled and honored to be able to sit down with you. And thank you so much to our listeners. Much appreciated for listening in on this. And we hope you can take this message and share it globally as well.
Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com. CONSULT@firststartherapy.com. On Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.